We start by importing TensorFlow as TF. Then we print out the version of TensorFlow we are using. We are using TensorFlow 1.0.1. In this video, we're going to sum a list of TensorFlow tensors using the TensorFlow add_n operation so that you can add more than two TensorFlow tensors together at the same time. Alright, let's get started. We're going to create three TensorFlow tensor variables that will each hold random numbers between 0 and 10 that are of the data type 32-bit signed integers. Note that we gave them the name of random int var1x, random int var2x, random int var3x. They're all constructed using the TensorFlow.get_variable operation, and they're assigned random tf var1, random tf var2, random tf var3. The initializer uses the TensorFlow random uniform functionality with a min value of 0, max value of 10, and the data type is int32 for all of them. Since they're all created the same way, let's only look at the first one to see what happens when we print it. We see that we have a TensorFlow tensor. We can see the name random_tf_var_1. We see that the shape is 2 by 3 by 4 and the data type is int32. The other TensorFlow variables we created will be the same. Now let's create a Python list data structure to hold these three tensors. We assign it to the Python variable random_list. You can see the square bracket, then we have our first variable, our second variable, and our third variable. We'll use the TensorFlow add_n operation to add all the tensors in this list together. Let's now print this random list to see what we have. You can see that it's a Python list of three TensorFlow variable objects. Now that we have created our TensorFlow variables, it's time to run the computational graph. Let's launch the graph in a session, and next we initialize all the global variables in the graph. Now let's print our random variables to see what's inside. We print random int var1x in a TensorFlow session, and we see that it is indeed a 2 by 3 by 4 tensor composed of integers between 0 and 10, and they are random numbers. Next we print random int var2x in a TensorFlow session, and again we see the numbers that have been generated. And lastly we print the third random int var3x, and we see the numbers generated there. Next, let's use the TensorFlow add_n operation to add all the tensors together that were in our random_list Python variable. We use TensorFlow.addn, we pass in the random list variable, and we assign it to the Python variable random_sum. Then we print the sum in a TensorFlow session. And you can see the result. Now let's double check this result versus manually adding the last row of the second matrix of each tensor. So what we're looking for is the number 5. So we have 0 plus 1 plus 4 is 5. That's correct. For 19, we see 8, 5 is 13, plus 6 is 19. Next, we're looking for a 22. We see 6 plus 7 is 13, plus 9 is 22. And lastly, for the last one, we have 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 9 is 20. Perfect. It worked. We were able to produce a single tensor containing the sum of three tensors that were the same size and shape. Finally, we closed the TensorFlow session to release the TensorFlow resources used with the session. And that is how you sum a list of TensorFlow tensors using the TensorFlow add_n operation so that you can add more than two TensorFlow tensors together at the same time.